This video is going to be something a little different. This video is going to be Johnny Depp movies ASMR. I've got my popcorn. I'm one of those people that always eats all the popcorn before the movie even starts. I also have a Zevia Cola. It's not a Pepsi, but if you haven't already seen the Johnny Depp Pepsi commercial from the 80s, I recommend that you go on YouTube and watch it. Let's open this soda. And take a sip. Now, we're not going to talk about the trial in this video. And if you are a fan of Johnny's ex-wife, this is probably not the video for you. You might want to just go ahead and click out of here and move along. I have been a fan of Johnny Depp since I was in high school. And tonight we are going to go through all of his movies. We're going to skip the TV shows. We're going to skip the music videos, and there's many. And we are going to skip the TV movies. We are just going to stick to the movies. Before we get started, I feel like we need to cut the cords to everything we don't need, everything negative around the idea of this, of Johnny Depp's movies. And I thought the best way to get rid of all the negativity would be to use scissors. We also have, to set the mood, some pyrite, otherwise known as fool's gold, but in this case, pirate's gold, pirate's gold, pirate's gold. And lastly, before we get started, I'm gonna clear the air with a little sweet orange spray. That feels good. And now we are going to get started with a most impressive 10-page resume of Johnny Depp and his movies. It is likely I will forget something. It is likely I will mispronounce someone's name. or leave out a key actor that you feel was important. But I'm going to read a list of all of his movies, starting in 1984 and going all the way up until the present moment. I have highlighted the famous directors that he has worked with and highlighted who I feel are the biggest stars he has worked with. So let's get started. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, written and directed by Wes Craven, also starring Robert Englund. Private Resort, 1985. Platoon, 1986. Written and directed by Oliver Stone, also starring Willem Dafoe, Forrest Whitaker, Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, and Kevin Dillon. Cry Baby, 1990. Written and directed by John Waters, also starring Ricky Lake, Patty Hearst, and Iggy Pop. Edward Scissorhands. Written and directed by Tim Burton, also starring Winona Ryder, Diane West, Anthony Michael Hall, Alan Arkin, the great Vincent Price, and Kathy Baker. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, 1991. Arizona Dream, 1993, also starring Jerry Lewis, Faye Dunaway, Lily Taylor, and Vincent Gallo. Benny and June, also starring Al Pacino, Michael Madsen, and Anne Heche. The Brave, 1997, directed by Johnny Depp, also starring Marlon Brando. Man, 1997, also starring Dennis Hopper, Benicio del Toro, John Cryer, Peter Gallagher, and Laura Flynn Boyle. LA Without a Map, 1998, also starring David Tennant, Vincent Gallo, and Amanda Plummer. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a big favorite. 1998, written by Hunter S. Thompson, directed by Terry Gilliam, also starring Benicio del Toro, Tobey Maguire, Cameron Diaz, Christina Ricci, Harry Dean Stanton, and Ellen Barkin. The Ninth Gate, 1999, directed by Roman Polanski. The Astronaut's Wife, 1999, also starring Charlize Theron. Sleepy Hollow, 1999, original story written by Washington Irving. It's a classic. Directed by Tim Burton. Also starring Christina Ricci. The Man Who Cried, 2000. Also starring Christina Ricci, Kate Blanchett, and Harry Dean Stanton. Before Night Falls, 2000. Also starring Javier Bardem, Diego Luna, and Sean Penn. Chocolat, 2000. Also starring Carrie Ann Moss, Juliette Binoche, and Judi Dench. Blow, 2001. Also starring Penelope Cruz, Paul Rubens, and Ray Liotta. From Hell, I remember seeing that one in the theater. 2001. Also starring Heather Graham and Ian Holm. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, 2001, directed by Gore Verbinski. Also starring Orlando Bloom, Geoffrey Rush, and Keira Knightley. Once Upon a Time in Mexico, 2003, written and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Also starring Selma Hayek, Antonio Banderas, Mickey Rourke, Eva Mendes, Danny Trejo, Cheech Martin, Stephen King. Happily Ever After, 2004. Finding Neverland, 2004. Also starring Kate Winslet and Dustin Hoffman. The Libertine, 2004. Also starring John Malkovich. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, 2005. Original story written by Roald Dahl. Directed by Tim Burton. Also starring Helena Bonham Carter and Christopher Lee. Corpse Bride, 2005. Written and directed by Tim Burton. Also starring Helena Bonham Carter, Christopher Lee, Tracy Ullman, and Albert Finney. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, 2006. Directed by Gore Verbinski. Also starring Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley. I think it's time for a popcorn break. It's intermission. Let's take a sip of our drink. That's so much better. I think where we left off was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, 2007. Directed by Gore Verbinski. Also starring Orlando Bloom, Geoffrey Rush, and Keira Knightley. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Flint Street, 2007. Directed by Tim Burton. Also starring Helena Bonham Carter and Alan Rickman. The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, 2009. Written and directed by Terry Gilliam. Also starring, and I believe it was his last role, Heath Ledger, Christopher Plummer, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell. Public Enemies, 2009. Also starring Christian Bale, Giovanni Ribisi, Channing Tatum, and Lily Taylor. was in high school. But this is a remake movie. 21 Jump Street, 2012, also starring Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, and Ice Cube. Dark Shadows, 2012, directed by Tim Burton, also starring Michelle Pfeiffer, Helena Bonham Carter, Christopher Lee, and Alice Cooper. The Lone Ranger, 2013, directed by Gore Verbinski, also starring Armie Hammer and Helena Bonham Carter. Lucky Them, 2013, also starring Toni Collette, Thomas Hayden Church, and Oliver Platt. Transcendence, 2014, also starring Morgan Freeman. Tusk, 2014, written and directed by the great Kevin Smith, also starring Haley Quinn Smith and Lily Rose Depp. Into the Woods, 2015, also starring Anna Kendrick, James Corden, Emily Blunt, Tracy Ullman, and Meryl Streep. Mordecai, 2015, also starring Gwyneth Paltrow, Ewan McGregor, and Jeff Goldblum. Black Mass, 2015, also starring Benedict Cumberbatch. Boy, is that fun to say. Dakota Johnson, Kevin Bacon, and Peter Sarsgaard. Yoga Hosers, 2016, written and directed by Kevin Smith, also starring Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith, Lily Rose Depp, Jack Depp, Vanessa Paradis, and Stan Lee. If you haven't seen it, you should. We're almost there, folks. Alice Through the Looking Glass, 2016. Original story by Lewis Carroll. Also starring Helena Bonham Carter, Anne Hathaway, Sacha Baron Cohen, and Alan Rickman. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, 2016. Written by J.K. Rowling. Also starring Ed Redmayne, Colin Farrell, John Voight, and Zoe Kravitz. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, 2017. Also starring Geoffrey Rush, Javier Bardem, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, and Paul McCartney. Ooh, this one's a good one. Murder on the Orient Express, 2017. starring Billy Bob Thornton and Amber Heard. The Professor, 2018. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, 2018. Written by J.K. Rowling, also starring Ed Redmayne, Zoe Kravitz, and Jude Law. City of Lies, 2018, also starring Forrest Whitaker. Waiting for the Barbarians. I've seen this, it's interesting. 2019, also starring Robert Pattinson. Minimata, 2020, and in pre-production. Jean Dubarry, directed by Ma Huyn, who I understand is famous in France. Also starring Ma Huyn, Pierre Ricard, and Louis Garrel. These are all French actors who I'm not familiar with, but my French husband assures me they're all pretty famous. Now before we go, I'd like to share my Johnny Depp TV collection with you. I hope that'll be okay. Give me 1 minute and I'll go get it. So, I have some Johnny Depp DVDs that I'd like to share with you. I don't have a lot, but I do have a few. And I have not seen all of his movies, but I would say I've probably seen at least 75 to 85% of his movies. I'm definitely a fan. Big fan. Okay. The first one I have is The Rum Diary. The Rum Diary. The Rum Diary. The reason I have this movie is not because I love his co-star in this movie, or because of anything about the trial that's going on. The reason I have this movie is not because I'm a fan of Hunter S. Thompson. The reason I have this movie is because the plane that's used in this movie, the antique seaplane, is from my hometown. And Johnny Depp came to my town and picked up the plane. And it was written up in the local paper here. So that is why I have this movie. I knew about this movie before it was even made, because they borrowed a plane from this town to make the movie. Okay. The next DVD I have is Ed Wood, and I do so love this movie. I'm not a big fan of Ed Wood's movies, but I acknowledge that they're a great part of movie history, and that as terrible as they were, they had a huge influence on movies as we know them today. Johnny Depp is phenomenal in this role. I also like Bill Murray in this movie. It's funny. He's funny. If you have not seen Ed Wood, and you can put up with a little black and white, I highly recommend it. Sweeney Todd. I saw this in the theater when it opened. A goth classic. Absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Now this movie, I didn't even know this was Stephen King until I looked it up recently. this movie, not my favorite Johnny Depp movie, but it is good. And now that I know that it's Stephen King, I kind of want to go back and watch it again because I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I love The Shining, the movie and the book. This is also phenomenal. I saw it in the theater. I truly love it. And Johnny Depp is truly wonderful and magical in this movie. And here is the best Johnny Depp movie. The best ever. Probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Edward Scissorhands. Parts of it were filmed near here in Lakeland, Florida, which I think is very cool and exciting. I love Winona Ryder. I'm a big Winona Ryder fan as well. This is truly a classic. And then the last Johnny Depp DVD I have is From Hell. I love this movie as well. I love Heather Graham because I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. But this movie, very good. I highly recommend it. I would definitely have all the Pirates movies. All the Pirates movies. If I had all the money in the world, I would probably have most of Johnny Depp movies if I had all the money in the world. But so far, this is my collection. I want to share one last anecdote with you. One last anecdote with you about Johnny Depp. I mentioned that the plane in Rum Diary is from my hometown in Florida. I am not going to say what town that is, but that town is known as the Seaplane City. So of course this was the place to come to borrow a seaplane to make a movie. But in addition to that, we used to have a tourist train here called the Orange Blossom Cannonball. The Orange Blossom Cannonball. And that train is also an antique steam train, I believe. And I've ridden on it. My husband and I took a ride on it one day. It has since been sold and moved to Arkansas, I think, or Tennessee, and it's a tourist train somewhere else. But it was here for quite a while, and I've photographed it. I have a photograph in my living room of it. It was used in many, 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 many Hollywood movies, and everybody, you name it, from Johnny Cash to Steve McQueen to Charles Bronson, have ridden on that train, and it's been used in so many movies. And I will link a list below in this video of all the movies the Orange Blossom Cannonball has been featured in, if I can still find that website. But I believe the Orange Blossom Cannonball was used, and it was probably a CGI version because that's what they do now, but it was used for the movie The Lone Ranger, starring Johnny Depp. So not only was a plane from my hometown used by Johnny Depp, but a train from my hometown was used by Johnny Depp. So I just think that's cool, and that's just my own personal little story, linking myself to Johnny Depp in any way I possibly can. But I just want to say that I respect his career, and I respect him as an artist and a person, and it doesn't really matter what negative things people say about him. I'm a fan, and I don't want to spread negativity about his ex-wife, but this video is about celebrating him, so I